agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
And I am Anthony Sid. A pleasant welcome to Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We can welcome you enough to yet another edition of our program, Between the Hairlines. Here, I focus on Liberia. In this edition, we are talking about some political issues happening in our country, Liberia. We have panelists seated and ready to go. Before I can introduce the panelists, we have a series of questions that will make this discussion possible today. And before I bring in some of those questions, let me welcome our listeners across the globe. Do us a favor by sharing the broadcast with somebody in your contact. The conversation of our nation, Liberia, is something we must all participate in if we want Liberia to get to a better place. It starts with the conversation. Well, today's conversation, question number one, was President Weah actually denied access to the VIP lounge at the RIA? This is something that has sparked serious debate. The presidential spokesperson, which is the press secretary of President Joseph Boakai, is saying that VIP lounge is exclusively for the sitting president and not for any other person. Whoa, do we have a new policy concerning the VIP lounge now? People are here to help us understand what is going on with that situation there. Also, what prompted CDC Chairman Mamba Molu's resignation, and will that impact the CDC? The long-standing chairman of the CDC, they call themselves the Mighty Coalition for Democratic Change, resigned just yesterday, and he has some things to say. I'm sure Jimmy is on it. I have some questions. Also, we are looking at question number 3 here. Is President Boakai in constitutional error by filling unexpired tenure positions? Some legal minds are saying the president is on a constitutional error, while others argue no, it is the president's right to appoint and fill the executive branch of government. We have a legal mind here, and he's going to help us. All right. Also, we want to know now that we have a new administration. The question is, what are some meaningful rescue efforts on the Boakai administration? We want to know, saying it has started rescuing the people of Liberia. We also want to know whether the Liberian people are beginning to get the change. Are they beginning to see the difference? Are they beginning to see the competence they were promised? Are they also seeing the qualified individuals in the right places to jumpstart the rescue operation? We want to also know whether is there a new, whether the new administration is demonstrating the needed urgency, or are they just treading cautiously? Many questions I have today, and I think I have the right panel here to help us dissect all of these issues. Jimmy Eastman joins us from the nation's capital. Jimmy, it's good to have you. How you doing, brother? Jimmy, it seems to be you muted yourself.
It's muted.
Okay, there we go. It's good to be here, Anthony. A lot of things going on, a lot of developments. I think a lot of people are surprised. But then some people are saying, I told you so. So it'll be interesting discussion here tonight.
Indeed, the discussion promises to be interesting. We have a young man here seated and ready to go. He's William Gibson. It's good to have you, young brother. How you doing?
Thank you, Mr. C. I'm doing well. Glad to be here.
All right. J. Victor Namwe is a veteran all the way the UPP to the CPP. I don't know where he is now. Maybe he's with Liberian People's Party. CM brother, welcome. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing well. It's good to be here. I am with the UPP. I am with the CPP. I'm with the Liberian people.
It's good to have you, CM brother. We appreciate your time and your contribution to these serious discussions
Thank you.
concerning our nation, Liberia. Wonder Freeman is here. Brother Freeman, it's good to have you. I enjoy your debut here. How you doing, brother?
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Okay. How's family doing, by the way?
Yeah, it's kind of great, and Liberia is close to our hearts. So, we always are very happy to talk about what makes Liberia to progress.
Talking about what makes Liberia to progress. Liberia cannot progress in the midst of chaos, confusion, and uncertainty. And we don't want political noise. We want Liberians to be able to see the issues for what they are and for us to make progress. Well, Weah is former president now. He had traveled out of the country. He returned, and then the VIP launch. It is called the Club Marie Weah VIP launch that was constructed and dedicated by the president. The new administration is saying this is not the place for you, according to the presidential press secretary or Kula Fumfana. That place is exclusively for the sitting president and not any other person. Is that a policy for the new administration? With that, we have this question. And Jimmy, we want you to go here. You might be one of the experienced minds here. Was President Weah actually denied access to the VIP launch at the RIA? Did it actually happen? What is the truth to this story?
Well, Anthony, there's been all kinds of rumors going on to and fro. But as I listened to some people who were responsible for communicating that the former president was coming back, and those who were on the ground responsible for opening up the premise, this is what I can deduce. It appears there was a little bit of a lack of in protocol, in that the president's return was not properly communicated ahead of time, and that he would want to be using the presidential VIP. And upon his arrival, he was allowed to enter a part of the VIP lounge, but not into the presidential lounge. Now, there were calls made to those who were supposed to have the authority to open it up, but those calls were not heeded. And so as a result, the president was not allowed into the presidential VIP.
So Jimmy, we know that there is a VIP launch. I'm hearing the word presidential VIP. Is there a dedicated section for president? What is it? Because we only know that we have a VIP launch for all important dignitaries that come to the country, which include president and other leaders. So what do you mean when you say presidential VIP?
There's a new building that has been constructed. It was done under Weah administration, and I hear the finishing touches may have been done the other day. But there's another whole complete different section that was created, and for VIP, for lounging and for accepting foreign presidents and whatnot. And during the inauguration of VP Boakai, this place was made active. Now, it is separate from the older VIP lounge that was there. This is a newer launch that had just been completed just in time for the inauguration. Now that is where he was they did not open it up for him to have passage, but there was a separate lounge that he was allowed to go through. Now, for me, there must have been a lapse of protocol, because he should have, if had they been informed earlier, they would have known yes or no. But it seems like some word came in late, and so it became an embarrassing situation.
But Jimmy, the presidential press secretary is clear when she had appeared on OKFM by saying the presidential, not presidential, the VIP launch is exclusively for the sitting president. I know there are two of them, the old one and the new one. The new one, built by President Weah, named Claire Marie Weah VIP launch. There is no presidential launch. To our knowledge here, I focus on Liberia. So, but what I want to get from you now is the press secretary said that the place is exclusively for the sitting president, meaning Boakai, and not any other person. So when you say there was a breach in protocol, maybe people didn't communicate well, I don't think this is how it appears from the side of the United Party here. The President Boakai, because the press secretary is saying this is for only the sitting president. Your take?
Yeah, but okay. So granted that it's exclusive for the president. However, by permission, President Weah could have easily gone through there once they had granted him access. So the rules are not made. Men are not made for rules. Rules are made by men. So the fact that it's supposed to be a presidential launch, President Weah could have also been accorded the courtesy of using the lounge since she had just come back.
All right.
So that wasn't something to stop him from leaving, from using it.
Thank you. Jeff Victor Namwe, what do you know about this situation? And do you agree with Jimmy that possibly there was maybe protocol error and maybe the Weah side did not communicate well with Team Boakai, and so that led to what happened? Well, you know.
Yeah, I really agree with Jimmy. It looks to me like there is a miscommunication problem that I think was blown out of proportion by the CDC fellows.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was poorly handled by the UP fellows. Mm-hmm. I tell you this, the first time I got word of this, my son, who comes with me every time I come to Africa, mm-hmm. He the one who called me and said, "Dad, look what's happening. The president has returned, the former president has returned to the country, and he's been denied entry to the VIP lounge." So I was like, "No, this is not, But then the more I called and understood what was happening, I kind of began to understand what was happening. And like Jimmy is saying, let's say there is a VIP section in the VIP section. So there is the VIP section from my understanding. Mm-hmm. And then there is a room set aside for the president, okay, who would have been Judge Weah when he was president, but now Joseph Boakai, who is the president.
Okay.
And so I understand the general VIP lounge was open, but apparently the former president expected to still use the presidential VIP, which right now is reserved for mm-hmm. the current president, who is Joseph Boakai. Okay. So this is my understanding. Now, as to the press secretary, I'm going to go on a limb here to say I am not sure if she's very familiar with that building yet, since she's just coming into being. So I didn't hear what she said, but I heard other commentaries about what they said she said. And from what they said she said, it sounded like the entire building was exclusively for the use of the president, which really is not what it is. The vice president uses that building. Other dignitaries in government use that building. So I think the understanding is there is a VIP section, and then there is a VIP within that VIP exclusively reserved for the current president. And I think the former president anticipated to use that VIP, and I think he was denied. That's my understanding of the situation.
Thank you. Mr. Freeman.
Well, thank you very much. I think we need to cut the presidential press secretary some slack. Mm-hmm. She's a young person coming to the job, because I don't see her statements to be law. I also feel that there should be some regulation around those kinds of issues. A lot of time we rely on word of mouth to pass our policy on. I believe if there are very clear policy as to how that facility should be used, there will be no argument. And that very clear policy was left to the Weah administration to have put in place. And if it were in place, the other people would have received that policy and they would have just carried it on.
Okay.
But in any case, I think it's a case of miscommunication. I also don't think that there should be a room exclusively for like the president. I believe the room should be available, you know, for other VIPs. Maybe they can ask them to pay some fees, whatever, but to have a room because the president doesn't travel every day, probably not every month. Why would the room just be closed when they could use it for other VIPs? So, you know, that's my take on it. But I think the CDC people just blew it out of proportion. It's possible there can be some miscommunication. There's no need to blow it out of proportion.
So the clarity made by the presidential press secretary here, I think suggests that they, from the Boakai side, have a clear-cut policy now about a section in that VIP launched exclusively for the president, as Jimmy and I think Mr. Namba mentioned. Could that be the case here?
She could have cited the policy.
Mm-hmm.
She could have given it out to the press to make it clear. So in the absence of her doing that, I believe is just what we do in Liberia. We say things by word of mouth.
Well, she provided the clarity, though. As you mentioned, she just coming in. You say we should cut her some slides. So she might have talked to somebody with knowledge of the place that, hey, there is the clarity you need to make. We suggest that the Boakai administration has a clear-cut policy about a particular section of the launch exclusively for the sitting president. That's why she communicated, isn't it?
What I mean when I say policy, I mean a written piece of instrument that is probably posted at a place that everybody can access for people to know, you know, on what circumstances you can access the VIP launch, stuff like that, not necessarily what comes out of the mouth of the press secretary.
She is the mouth of the president. In politics, it's said that whatever the president says becomes a policy. Do we have a policy given that the president office spoke?
Yeah, you know, man, I speak as a lawyer, man. So when people talking about authority, then we just laugh because, you know, we focus on the law, what the law says. Okay. So, I mean, even the president of the Republic of Liberia can say something and I can disagree and I can go to court and prove it. I have done that quite a number of times. Not the president, but a lot of officials of authority have spoken and I told them they were wrong and we went to court and I showed to them that they were wrong. So, you know, it doesn't matter, but we should get in the habit of making written policy and putting it in public places for people to know how and under what circumstances people can access facilities.
So what you think should be the way forward now? This can be a kind of opportunity for us to learn and proceed better.
Yeah, it's a learning curve. I believe if they have a written policy, they should publish it in the airport area, you know, and other places and share it among other VIPs who might want to use it so that people know exactly what rights they have and what the limits to the rights are, stuff like that. But, you know, I don't want to take the word of the press secretary as law.
Mr. Gibson, folks from President Weah's side are very unhappy about this situation. They are emotionally attached to the president. He constructed this place, dedicated this place, named this place in honor of his wife, the former first lady. And now he comes and they are saying, hey, this is not your place. You are no longer president. I heard one of them saying, well, this president leaves Liberia, goes out of Liberia, and people roll out a red carpet for him. But when he comes home, he's being treated as dirt. Is there any reason to believe that the Boakai administration will intentionally deny President Weah access to something he should have right to as former president?
Yes, so I believe I would hate to make the assumption that they intentionally did such of denying him access.
Okay.
But if what Mr. Eastman said was true of them, the Weah side not properly communicating ahead of time about their arrival, that's a blunder on their part. But when it comes to the Boakai Kung administration side, I would say it's a blunder equally on their part as well, of coming out prematurely through the press secretary to speak. Unless you are clothed with full authority to say, hey, this is such and such law that has taken place, that has been written prior to this incident, that has been shared with the public, whether it's through the media institutions or through whatever means, to ensure that this is law, that if you are a former president, you have to travel and come in. Of course, the former presidents or whatever VIPs, ministers have to go through the old presidential VIP lounge, whatever you want to call it, right? But it's a mix-up on both of their parts in terms of poor communication. You can't go ahead and jump in front of an incident that is taking place without you having full knowledge and say, oh, when it comes to that, the former president cannot travel through this new lounge. Where's the law? Where is it on the books? Where has it been shared to where you can point to it and say, if you look at section such and such of this authority, when it comes to Liberia Airport Authority, this is what has been stated about the VIP lounge. It was never stated anywhere. So I would hate, like I said, to believe that they intentionally did that, but they should have followed up with the proper channels of reaching out first and foremost to the Ministry of State, the Minister of State for Presidential Affairs, to say, hey, this is when we're coming in. This is following the books. Protocols need to be put in place. We can't continue to do the same things and say, oh, we'll give this person a pass, even though they communicate something last minute. Or if this person is young and coming into the role, you should know better as a press secretary to say, I'm speaking. Honestly, you should know better as a press secretary. She's not somebody who's super young to say, oh, you don't know what the political embarrassment will cause to your administration, to say, oh, I'm coming out on public broadcasting to say, this is what I'm saying, and I'm clothed by the executive mansion to say that the former president is not allowed to use the VIP lounge. Where is that written? You can't just come out and say things and then expect for your word to not be seen as something that is coming from upper administration. So she should have definitely done her due diligence to reach out and say, at this time, unfortunately, I'm not clothed with all of the information, but I will get back to you all in a timely manner once I get that information. That is how a presidential secretary blows out the fires before he gets to the point of saying the Boakai administration now has something against Weah. That's how you manage. So all in all, both have poor communication on both parts. So both of them have equal blame. If Weah definitely did not communicate ahead of time that he was coming to the country and he wanted access to that lounge, it's on him as well. And it's also on the administration of trying to get in front of an embarrassment by causing more embarrassment by proving that they yet and still do not have anything on the books to prove otherwise. So it's 1-1 on both parts in terms of embarrassment.
All right, let's close on the issue. Mr. Freeman, the legal man, has said what is not done legally, I'm paraphrasing your words yet, is not done at all. He mentioned that you need to have a policy, you need to communicate it. If you put a law in play as to how the place should be used, you should do it. Will that be the best option or maybe solution, so as to avoid what we just experienced? And Gibson, I want you to close on that. What should be done now to avoid a similar situation happening?
Yeah, I think it's a learning curve. There's a new administration, so they might, make some lapses. But I always encourage people in authority to write their policy down, to make regulations, to display it, so that there is no ambiguity, and there is no misunderstanding. And I feel the Weah people should have done that, but now that they didn't do it, Boakai, who is coming to rescue, those are some of the imperatives on him to rescue from all angles. So yeah, I think they should do it. If they don't have a policy as such, they should do it so that it make it clear. Because apart from Mr. Weah, there could be other dignitaries who might think that they have a right to it. So it needs to be clear who really has a right, to the space, and maybe other people can use the space for a fee. You don't know. I kind of have a business sense of things, so I would think that if it's not being in use, people can use it for a fee. but the policy will clear up all of that, and so they should go ahead and fast track that.
Yeah, let me add on quickly what Mr. Koyan just said. It's a new building, and it has not been in use, so one would understand why they haven't put together a policy yet. Number two, this is the first time President Weah is coming in the country without being president. For the past 6 years, he's been president, and he was accorded all the protocols to a president. Now he's coming in, is different. His whole entourage, his whole protocol people, Colasco and who have you, they have to understand now that he's coming as a former president, and the same accord he was given before will not be the same as a sitting president. So there are some adjustments that have to be made, and coupled with the fact that this is a brand new building, which apparently they're still working out what is the protocol and who should use it and who should not. They have to make an adjustment. I think this should have been handled better. It shouldn't have been an embarrassment, because I understand, according to Kolako, who was interviewed by Front Page, that his security advised him that they would not be allowed entrance. So that sounds like a last minute thing, because if you would have known a long time ago, it wouldn't have been an issue. So it looks like things were done at the last minute. So they're going to have to make adjustments now, so that they will know that now there's another president, and the former President Weah has to make his protocol, his people, his security have to make an adjustment now to handle situations like this much better in the future.
And Mr. Namwe, does any side owe an apology here, or there was just miscommunication and the two sides not knowing what best to do with the situation like this, and there's no need for the apology? No one wrong anybody here. What's the situation, and what do you also think should be the way forward here?
Well, quite frankly, I would think that the current government owes an apology to the former president. I think they should be big enough to apologize. I think this was a faux pas, and I think what really added the fuel to the fire is the press secretary coming out and making the kind of comments that she made, right? Mm-hmm. So I really think, and if it were in another part of the world, as in here, that press secretary would be fired, but Liberia being what it is, I think she should be called in and advised that you have to be careful, because whenever you speak now, you speak on behalf of the government. What you're speaking is policy. So I think, I think an apology would go a long way in trying to smooth over the situation. I really honestly believe this was an unintentional error that happened. I don't want to believe that former President Weah was intentionally denied entry into that building. I just believe it was a mix-up. But I think what really made it more difficult on this current government is the press secretary's interview and the comments that she made. So I think they should offer him an apology, and I think all will be well.
All right, Mr. Gibson, you get the final word on the one. You think an apology is necessary, given what that happened to the former president here?
Yeah, I think honestly, you should not be too proud. You should not be too proud to admit when indeed you were wrong or you misspoke. So I think an apology needs to come from the press secretary, just regarding on this matter, saying, we apologize for the mix-up or miscommunication, simply going forward. And then from there, after the apology, in that same breath, also stating that we are currently working on a policy clear cut to show who can use the lodge or the lounge, who has access to it, and at what times, and who should be the point of contact when you want to use such a lounge going forward. So that should be what needs to be done going forward if we're thinking about reimagining what this, administration of no longer business being as usual and things being done differently. If, and also the whole excuse of this is a new government, this is a new administration. Unity Party has been around since 2005. It's been around for years before they got to power in 2005. So we shouldn't use the excuse of unity party as a new government or new administration. They're not. President Boakai is not somebody who's new to government or governance, period. So all these things, the people he has around him, the Minister of State, Mr. Grigsby, he's not new to government. So all these things should have been thought about or put in place when you know who you're dealing with and the people you're dealing with in terms of, opposition leaders who are going to come in and want to go ahead and score points with the people who voted for them and sadly are still also very much upset that they lost. They're going to use anything to cast a stone and say this was something that was done to us. We didn't do it to y'all when y'all were in opposition. So all these things, they need to be mindful of that and think ahead of the curve rather than thinking in a small box and thinking that these things, when it come up, they can just deny it, and not come with a true solution. It needs to take place of apology and then an overall clear-cut policy driven idea of what needs to be put in place in terms of who can use the lounge.
Next on our menu is the resignation of the longest serving chairman of CDC, Boakai Gov't. He penned a resignation to former President George Weah that he will not only be serving the party as its chairman, but also that he will not be serving as chairman for the coalition for democratic change. So he has left both roles, CDC chairman, the coalition chairman. He said he wants to be a free man now so he can advocate. He said he holds no grudge, but he was not treated fairly. And he wants to be a free man to be able to advocate for the Liberian people. He said, well, if I were given a job suitable enough, I would not have taken the job of chairman because I would not want to go in any agreement with the president. So the man is saying that, hey, they didn't give me a job as chairman and I swallowed it all along. And so many things he said. So let's talk about the resignation of the CDC chairman. My question here, and Nangbe, this is your area. You've been in politics, me brother. What prompted Chairman Molu's resignation? And would that have an impact on the CDC going forward, Mr. Nangbe?
To start with your last, will it impact the CDC? Probably not.
Okay.
I think Chairman Molu's grip on the party started slipping even before this election.
Okay.
And we all remember the infamous liquor talk. We remember the series of losses under his watch, the Dillon victory, and crowned by the recent loss by the president. I think there was a big gap between he and the president. And several times, I think some of the differences spilled out into the open. And then I read the communication that he wrote, and he seems to be conflicted. He's coming with no malice, but yet he seems to be complaining that he wasn't given a job. I think the chairmanship of the party, right, is different from the government. Yes, as the party chairman, you get involved in recommending, making sure your rank and file, is catered to in government. But you don't really have the hiring authority. And I think the chairman overassumed his authority as a party chairman and in government. And I think that really frustrated him because I think his expectations were quashed on many occasions. So I think that malice has been there. And then in recent times, a series of reversals of his decisions by the standard bearer or the former president, including his recent call for a retreat, which I'm not sure if the letter is legitimate, but there was an apparent letter coming out from the former president telling him to stand down because the retreat did not get his blessing. His advice was not sought. So as to how his departure will impact the CDC, I'm not sure. And then to crown his dubious series of moves over the past couple of months. And there's a picture of him that surfaced with Prophet Key today, I believe. What does that say about him, about his choices, about his tactics? So I honestly don't know, but I doubt that his departure will make much of an impact on the CDC.
Thank you, Mr. Nambwe. And Jimmy will get to the things he talked about in the letter, and I think Nambwe kind of went through them a little more. That picture that I saw that Nambwe just referenced, we know how Prophet Key has been so vile against the president, the former president, Weah, his dead mother, in fact, and his wife. And this is Mamba Molu took a picture with this vile human being, and it's on Facebook. Talk to me, Jimmy. Mamba Molu, did he really serve the CDC well?
Well, Mamba Molu took over the CDC after Nathaniel McGill.
Mm-hmm.
It was unanimously decided that he would take the reins. But the person, the damage that somebody wanted to do to Molu, they did it by recording Molu in the Liquor Talk video or a tape. So it was a plot of somebody very close to Molu, and obviously close up there in the CDC to eliminate or damage Molu's image in the CDC. And it was successful. So even leading up to this election, there were some losses previously, but even leading up to this elections, you would notice that President Weah named his who will be chairing the campaign. And Molu named his own campaign team, and it was clear that they were not in sync. Okay, and so it was inevitable that today would happen.
So do you think he was conflicted for the most part of his 6 years as chairman of the CDC? Because when he took over the CDC, I think a few months later, maybe probably to a year or so, when this whole Liquor Talk audio leaked, and then he fell out of favor with the president throughout.
Well, it was under Molu that they had a successful campaign in 2017. Let's not forget that. Okay? It was under Molu's chairmanship. But like I said, this whole scheme was to damage Molu in the eyes of President Weah, and they were successful. It's just a matter of time that Molu would have been going his way. Nothing is unexpected, and we've seen the rift since that incident. It has not been the same.
And Jimmy, when you say Molu now as chairman stood for the abuse of the CDC, did he stand for the issues that were affecting the Liberian people? Because even the Liquor Talk, all the things he said, some people believe those things were true. He was expressing frustration about the things that were happening. I remember at some point he had a press conference when he said, look, people are amassing wealth in no time. These people must be audited. Let them explain how they are getting rich overnight. He was chairman then. When he spoke so boldly, I have a copy of that press conference. He never held back. When you look at that, is it fair to say that, look, Monu was that guy who was prepared to talk about the issues of the ills in the CDC government at the time, despite he being chairman?
It appears so. He wanted the ship to go the right way. But as you can see, Liberian politics, there are people who ready to stab you in the back. So you may be wanting to do the right thing or justified, but the way people will betray you will make you look like a villain. So instead of him coming out now thinking, say he wanted the CDC to go the right track, he's looking like somebody who is who doesn't warrant the trust of the president, and that is what happens with treacherous politics. I think he was terribly betrayed, and all that he might have wanted to do good is going to be lost because of the betrayal.
Mr. Gibson, let me come to you before I come to our legal man here to bring something from the legal side here. When you look at Modu term as chairman of the CDC, let's talk about, did he have accomplishment, some challenges, obviously, I would think so, failures. What are some that you can recount? Accomplishment, failures, and challenges that kind of dog his administration throughout?
When it comes to Mr. Molu, I think overall I would describe his chairmanship as a lame duck chairmanship. He didn't make any major decisions within the CDC to where nothing came through him, if that makes sense. Everything came through Presidents Weah, Eugene Nagbe, and Jefferson Koji. So when you look at it, he had the title of a chairman of a political party, but the political party was not behind Mobile Molu, especially when he made that gaffe of speaking, making that big blunder of speaking negatively about the party, about the people who are part of the party, who were under the umbrella of Weah. He was on the outside. So he automatically became a lame duck chairman as a result of speaking against his own party. So he didn't have any major accomplishment. 2017 was solely based off of Weah's popularity. And him, Weah is the CDC is built around Weah, whether we like believe it or not. If Weah left today, the CDC would not be still full-fledged alive. Weah brought life to that party when he decided to become when they made him the chairman, or not the chairman, excuse me, the standard bearer. So when it comes to the CDC is not ran by any chairman, it's ran by Weah. Weah and the people who are part of his quote-unquote club of supporters, his yes men. From what I heard, what was posted somewhere in some paper, the plan was for Morlu to have been dismissed, and Eugene Nagbe was supposed to have become the chairman of CDC. So in all actuality, Mobile Morlu was just somebody who was placed in there as a placeholder, but he wasn't a true chairman. They didn't allow him to do things to push that party forward. Even when they came up with their own campaign team over his own campaign team he had set up, it wasn't a true chairmanship, from my opinion.
And before the legal man comes into Mr. Gibson's point, I think really Molu was also brought in because it was hoped that he would put Lofa into play. But I don't think he did that. I mean, it had to take the Thomas Fowler, the Jefferson Kojis of this world to go and shake Lofa up. Even then, they took a series of losses. Jala practically ran away from them. He only joined them after he won. So I think I agree with Gibson to a large extent that he really didn't impact the space as I think they would have hoped he would have coming from Lofa. I think the cities were looking for a foothold into Lofa, and I think it was hoped that he was going to be that guy to give them the inroads into Lofa, but that didn't happen.
And Mr. Freeman, there are some violence activities attributed to the CDC during Modu's term. We are aware of the CDC COP and the auxiliary of the CDC that is to Modu's full knowledge. I know for a fact this is a group that brutalized student Christopher Susulu at the U.S. Embassy. Is it possible that Molu can be held accountable or liable for anything like that? That very CDC COP also drove university students from the university campus This is CDC auxiliary to Molu's food knowledge. They are always at CDC gatherings. Can he be held accountable, or was it that Molu couldn't do anything? Did he not have control of the auxiliary, the youth in the CDC?
Firstly, I think, the way the people do public service in Liberia is disappointing because, for example, when that audio came out on Molu, he should have tendered in his resignation because there was an utter breach of confidence and there was just no way. But, because the politics in Liberia is all about money, and share of the national cake, whatever. So Molu hung on, but he should have been gone by the time that tape came out. With respect to the crimes committed, I think there was a lot of crimes committed under the Weah government, especially political violence. And that's why people are looking up to Boakai. And I see them spending so much time on appointments and the confusion coming there from that they have not yet started the investigation that needs to be started. Even, for example, in the case of people who were like murdered during the elections, people who were injured, I haven't heard a word yet from Boakai or the UP. But if there is an extensive investigation and it can be established that some of the instruction or some of the directive came from Molu, of course he can be brought in. But Boakai has to get over this whole appointment thing so that he can start governing, because there's a lot of things to pursue. Yes, all those violence that occurred during the CDC regime, they should be investigated. The sale of our passports, they should be investigated. And there's a whole bunch. I can't list them all. So, I hope they get past this stage of arguing over jobs and get to the point of governance so that if there are political violence, there should be accountability. That's the only way we're going to make progress in Liberia, if we begin to hold people accountable for their actions. So in some cases, it might be administrative, but in most cases, it could be criminal, and people need to be held accountable.
And Mr. Freeman, one of the violence that took place on Molu's watch happened in District 15. Remember when Telia Ure ran in that district? The CDC as a political party had a casket of Telia Ure, and they paraded in the principal street of Logan Town. The violence erupted, and her car got damaged. People got wounded. Molu was chairman. Molu, I'm sure, had allowed such, violence to go on. That's one instance that I remember.
No, you don't bring people in on a criminal basis like that. Like he was chairman. So, if they do an investigation and they can establish by way of investigation that there was some direct line of communication, direct line of instruction, then Molu can be brought in. But off and by itself, just the fact that he was chairperson of the CDC, I don't think he can be brought in. But look, I'm one person that have really called for like investigations over all those crimes that were committed under the Weah regime, and I hope that this regime will be fast, because sometimes you lose evidence by delaying. People who are available to testify, maybe you don't reach them soon, someone else could get sick, they could die. Evidence can dissipate. So they have to commence the investigation. And if the investigation established that there were direct lines of communication and stuff like that, yes, he can be brought in, but not necessarily because he was chairman when some of those violence occurred.
And as chairman, those are things that you think he couldn't control?
Well, there can be political accountability, but those that will occur in a civil suit situation. But for criminal offenses, you might have to establish some kind of direct line of directive communication and stuff like that. Like for example, let's say the people who caused the violence, maybe they had a meeting and Molu was present, and Molu issued instruction what to do, stuff like that. Yeah, but he wouldn't be brought in simply because he was chair of the CDC when the violence occurred.
But let me ask you this, Counselor. Could he be held culpable for utterances that he may have made that could have incited or been interpreted as instigating violence?
Yes, definitely, definitely. Especially if the utterances were precedent to the action.
Right.
Yeah, but only the investigation will establish that. And the longer Boakai takes to open such an investigation into some of the political violence, the more difficult it is to have a successful case. I mentioned the issue about people who died in the election. Boakai has not said a word about justice for those people. It's very disappointing. That's why sometimes we advise the young people to be careful the way they run behind politicians. So people died, people got injured, and they're busy dividing jobs, but not a word about justice, not a word about accountability. Think about it.
All right. Thank you. Jimmy, this resignation now, do you think it's timely, and is it possible that we might see more resignation? Because believe it or not, Molu might have his own following. Everybody in the CDC was not happy. And there was that unhappy segment of the CDC, those who never got better opportunity in the government, like Mamba Molu said, he was not given anything suitable. Many felt the same way. Lester Telling is one person who is obvious he's not a happy man with his party. And he has even threatened a revolution in the CDC. With Molu's resignation, should we hope or see, you think we'll see more resignation coming?
Yeah, yeah. The CDC has been very interesting. Yeah, they apparently they're different factions of the CDC. They got that Lester Tenney group who's supposed to be the ideologues and all of that, and then they have the loyalists. And but I have to agree with Mr. Freeman. I think after Molu was stabbed in the back like that with that audio tape, I think it was best for him to have bowed out of the scene. But he kept on, and because from that time the dynamic changed. And of course, he was still close to McGill. He was still close to Koji, but there was a rift with he and the standard bearer. And some people will argue that the Weah is CDC. And there's this other group saying that CDC is something else beside Weah. I think this is going to be, we're going to see this in the future, because if CDC is actually an entity without Weah, we're about to see that in the near future, because now Weah is no longer the standard bearer. So I think the jury is still out whether it's CDC is an entity by itself or CDC is nothing but Weah.
But Jimmy, we may not be the standard bearer if you look at the way things should be done, right? Because most of the parties now have perpetual standard bearer. I think Weah might be one of them. But he is still the political leader. When he came, his trip that he just came from, he said, I'm here to work for my party. I know he's been giving conflicting, well, I will be by in 2029, or well, I will not come by. And now he's saying, I'm here to work for my party. We are still around, isn't it?
Exactly. So that's why they claim that there's another faction, like what you mentioned, Lester Tenney and all that group, and that they will leave the CDC, or they will all that. From what we're seeing, the CDC is Weah is the CDC, and I don't see it any other way. But there are those who think that the CDC is out something else beside the Weah party.
Mr. Gibson, Mr. Freeman said, this resignation is not timely. He said when the audio tape came out, when the chairman was embarrassed, he had no face whatsoever. He had much that revelation alone put him out of favor with the leader, President Weah. He should have left. This is not timely at all. Do you share that as well? That this is not timely?
Yes, I totally agree. It's not timely. I think when we look at politics, it's all about interest, right? So in the time of him being chairman, he probably had access to a bunch of benefits. But being that the party is no longer in power, what's the point of sticking around? So that's why he decided to resign now. But I think he should have resigned in the beginning when that whole audio tape came out against him.
And what I also want to know now, he said that he's going to be having consultation even beyond CDC. Is he up to something here politically? Does he have a promising political future? Because believe it or not, this guy is a great political communicator. I believe so. Mr. Gibson, that's for you. You think he has a future? He said he's going to, have consultation even beyond CDC.
I can't really speak to if he's still a powerhouse in politics, but I think honestly, it will all depend on, like you said, how many people is really a supporter. How many people are really a supporter of Mohamed Morlu within the CDC? If he can bring a bulk of people into whatever party that he wants to have these consultations with, who knows? But as far as him being one of those major key players in Liberian politics, I don't really see him as one of those chairmen that actually, bring something of substance to the table to say that he's one of those major key players in politics. So I don't think so.
All right. Mr. Freeman, let's say Mohamed Morlu leaves the CDC and maybe joins another party. President Weah is on the ballot, and he's armed with interesting information like the one we heard in the audio tape, and there's so much more. This guy saying the president left the country in the name of the country, and he's giving money, and he brought the money, and he took the money to his house. That was very explosive for the chairman to have said. And so it's obvious why he had this kind of difficult relationship with the president and within the party. Should the CDC keep Mohamed Morlu close to them, fearing that he may do so much damage with information he's armed with, or he's done so much that there's no more he can do that can help the CDC?
Well, I think the real value of Morlu is really what you are mentioning, because I know Morlu ran for a representative position in the past, I think,
yes,
and lost.
Yes, Koloba defeated him.
Yeah, so Morlu doesn't have, even on a CDC ticket, Morlu doesn't have any gravitas, But of course, in terms of information on CDC, he can do damage. But that would depend on two things. Who he's going to make new political friends with, and whether or not Weah is interested in coming back into politics. And Weah coming back into politics is directly proportional to how long his money lasts. Yeah, because if his money doesn't last that long, Weah will be back into politics, So, but if Weah is not coming back, what good does damaging information on Weah do for you? So if Weah is not coming back, Morlu information is not valuable to anybody, So I really feel that Mohamed Morlu is just one of those unprincipled-minded people who are around. Because I even remember he was champion for war crimes code and all of that. And when they came to power, I never heard a word from him again. So he's not a credible individual. I think the fact that CDC just shuffled people around, so Morlu became chairperson, but he's not a political heavyweight in any respect. So nobody will miss him. Just good riddance.
All right, Mr. Number, you're the veteran political guy here. Your final word on this Morlu resignation. Does he have a future? Was the resignation timely? Is there so much damage he can do? there's nothing he can do to Weah should Weah venture into politics again. I think he's already in it.
Yeah, I mean, I quite frankly, personally, I think he overplayed his hand. As my colleagues are saying here, I think he overrated his capacity. And so in politics, influence is money. I'm not sure how much he has accumulated over the time. So that is that. And then I think him palling around with Prophet Key, I think is going to do him a lot of damage with the rank and file, because as we have all indicated here, Weah is the CDC. The thing with the president is very likable. There are a lot of people who love him, for a person, not necessarily because he's the stand-up bearer of the CDC. They just love him. And so I think a number of those people are really going to take unkindly to Chairman Molu, unless he intends to leave the CDC entirely. But as it is now, I think he has really eroded his standing with the CDC, and he has to be careful. The cardinal sin that he committed was thinking he was still a private citizen and having conversations with people that he shouldn't have had, and I think that kind of doomed him. And so now he's even digging himself in much deeper. The one thing I would say though,
so Mr. Number, what I'm reading you to mean that he does not even have a political future outside of the CDC, because
I doubt it. I don't really know if there are that many parties that will welcome Chairman Molu because of any value that he might be bringing. I doubt it. I don't know what his constituency is going to be. Certainly, I don't know if he's coming with any followings from the CDC. I doubt that. I mean, I'm not sure if we will welcome him.
And even if he stays with the CDC, it's not going to help him either.
He will have a lot of redeeming to do if he were to remain with the CDC, and what he did today really is not one of the things that he should be doing to redeem himself in the CDC.
Wow. All right.
I want to draw this comparison. So when we look at, of course, U.S. politics and the figureheads that are in U.S. politics, right? Looking at Donald Trump, for example. Donald Trump and they have followers who are loyalists to the fullest. Even when things bad come out about Donald Trump, whether you like to believe it or not, by the time we get to the elections, right? Donald Trump, that base will always be with him regardless. So will Weah's base. So if Molu was to come out with anything that was damning about Weah and the party, it would not mean anything whatsoever, because at the end of the day, the loyalists will say, I will still vote for this person. We've seen it time and time again with anybody that Liberians believe they owe loyalty to. So anybody that comes and says otherwise or descends on their person, their person that they are loyal to, they will always go ahead and vote for that person regardless of whatever's out there. So Molu stands no chance against a powerhouse like Weah, who has amassed so much loyalty from not even being in the presidency to now being a former president, and he still has loyalty base that can be, broken by anything.
30 seconds each, gentlemen, so we can close on this subject. Can the Boakai administration make the CDC job difficult in the future, or can the Boakai administration make the CDC job easier in the future? I really want to know, because if the CDC is to remain relevant and even maybe stronger, it would depend on how the administration governs. I'm asking the question looking at when Weah came, the way he was governing, people felt like, wow, Ellen was this good, all right, or so better. Can this administration make the CDC and President Weah to look so good and make their job easier? Mr. Number, you start us here. 30 seconds. Let me.
I'm just here. You're talking about the future, and so it's difficult to gauge the future. But you know how they say back home, you will know the Christmas is going to be good, right?
That's why I asked a question. You see how the administration is starting the game here.
Exactly. Judging by what is happening now, people are already, look. there are a lot of people who are already becoming nostalgic about President Weah. Believe it or not, they're making it a lot easier for President Weah to make a comeback. To answer your question directly, the way this government is proceeding, they are going. If they continue in this fashion, they will make it very easy for President Weah to make a comeback.
All right, Jimmy.
Well, when if we're thinking about Molu coming back, I, I don't see
No,
that.
Jimmy, Sister V, you are not paying attention. I'm saying the question I'm asking is, can the administration make the CDC job easier and President we have to look good tomorrow? Or can they really make it look bad and make his job difficult?
They're doing it already. Every time they make an unforced error, every time they make a blunder, every time they appoint the same people from before that were known not to have a good record, every time they find themselves guessing and making irresponsible errors that are not reflecting experience, you're making it easy for the CDC. If prices start going up, if you can't buy rice for the same price, if in fact, let's look at the exchange rate, because the exchange rate controls prices whether we like it or not, local prices. If we see the exchange rate going up, because right now it's almost a 2, it never reached 2 in we as under Winnie administration. So if it starts soaring above 2, this will make we look very good for the next coming election. So definitely, if they don't hold down the economy, if they don't provide jobs, if they allow things to get worse, let's look at electricity. Right now, electricity seems to be a huge problem. Somebody called me from Monrovia today, and nobody can make money because right now we have this electronic digital economy. A lot of young people are making money from, charging their phone, doing whatever they can. And if there's no LEC, they can't charge their phone. So what's going to happen? It is going to have a reverse effect on this administration. So if they don't address this electricity issue very soon, if they don't address the inflation, if the exchange rate continue to gallop, if they don't resolve some of these mining issues, what people have been complaining about over and over again before they came to power, they're going to make it very easy for the CDC to come back.
All right. Mr. Freeman?
President Boakai doesn't impress me. He's never impressed me. He's not a leader. I've wrote about that and I have spoken about that. And if he doesn't perform, Weah could stage a comeback, but I think because we have a 2-round election, Weah will face the same hurdle that he faced with Boakai. Weah has a significant following, true, but because we have a 2-round election, it's almost unlikely that Weah will make a comeback. But I don't believe Weah will make a comeback. Weah Heart was not in politics. I think Weah did the politics because he was getting money out of it. And now that he's got money, I don't see him interested in coming back in politics. Like I said, it depends.
And you think he would not want to make money still? You think he would not want to make money?
That's why I'm saying it's directly proportional to how long his money lasts. But he's been insensible now because from the day he lost his money as like football, and now he got it back, I think he might be wiser. So I don't see him coming back. But of course, if Boakai doesn't perform, and which I almost certain he won't.
He said he's coming back, Mr. Freeman. He said he's coming back.
Oh, yeah, but he can say it, and I can have my doubts, and eventually the future will tell.
Look. Yeah. Let me tell you this before Mr. Gibson comes. Look, the president right now is going through the trauma of the loss. But what happened yesterday should tell you something. He still enjoys the trappings of power. He's going to make a comeback. He's young. He's going to make a comeback. I have no doubt whatsoever.
Thank you.
Yesterday, he fought a war just to come through the presidential lounge. Imagine that.
Yeah.
He's going to miss all of these. Yeah, he's going to make a comeback.
Yeah, and to his words, he said that anything he missed is the cloud behind him as president. He said that's the only thing he missed. He said
exactly.
So he wants that.
He wants that.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Gibson, you got the final word here, please.
Yeah, when I was on this program the last time, I talked about the fierce urgency of now and why it
Mhm,
was so important that the Boakai administration came in and did things differently.
mhm,
Liberian people did not vote because Boakai was a new change person. He was somebody that they knew they could trust, the devil that they could trust, right?
mhm.
Because of what he's been in power before. He was talking about rescuing, rescuing, rescuing. So they expected that. But then when you talk about manager expectations, all these things, and then you also talk about manager expectations, but you're also talking about the same things about, oh, the Ukraine war. I didn't know about it. I'm listening to BBC radio and they're talking about the Ukraine war and how, things are affecting how we're moving and all these things, this, that, and the third. You're using the same things that was used before. The same things that were put in place before about the Ukraine war, that's been going on. But the people that you put in your government, in your cabinet, should be also thinking innovatively. And because they're not thinking that way, they're not moving in a new, manner, is making it harder for people to even believe that Weah would not come back and win. I think if they don't tighten up and try to figure out how they can go ahead and figure out to move the needle in a different direction and not rely on just so much donor funding, but being radicalized within the policies they put in place, bringing in a fresh air of investments in a climate where the economy honestly is not really super hopeful. So we're talking about 5 years from now. A lot of things can change 5 years from now. But as of right now, in this day of 2024, I don't believe that they're making it hard for We Out to not make a comeback in 2029.
All right, fair enough. The next thing on our menu is the whole debate going on about turning position. We have a legal mind here who brilliantly participated in a discussion here at Focus on Liberia. He disagreed that, it's not right for the president to be nominating individuals to tenure positions that are not yet expired. And we know that some of the tenure individuals ran to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has added to say, hey, Mr. President, hold on. We have a law here, and we need to look into it. So please stop doing what you're doing. Mr. Freeman, this is your area. You argue that the president is in error constitutionally in every way. And the Supreme Court now is almost like agreeing with you. Is that what we're hearing, or is just a stay order for them to look into the matter? Where are we on this whole turning position? Please put on your legal hat here and help us.
Yeah, firstly, when these rates go to the Supreme Court, like this constitutional rate, they will put in a stay order and ask everybody to stay in their position.
Okay.
So technically, nobody is correct. Boakai, you stop what you're doing, and you people can stay on your job, and until we can decide the case. So that is the essence of the stay order.
Okay.
Good. But I don't know where the Boakai people are heading with this case, because the Supreme Court has ruled on this matter in 2 different cases.
Okay.
So, they got different type of lawyers. They got lawyers who go to court when they got 1% chance of winning, 5% chance. And they got lawyer like me, it's either 50-50 or it's more than 50-50. I don't go to court on 10% chance, 5%, 1%. And Boakai then operating around a 1 to 5% chance of winning.
What makes you say that, Mr. Freeman?
Because 2 cases. There's this Martin Colley case, and there's the Axel Jackson case. Permit me to just read a small clause from the Axel Jackson case.
Please do.
Okay. So it says, the executive branch of government decided that during the October 2018 terms for good cause reason, that the opinion delivered in the case held that the creation of tenure position by the national legislature is not a violation of the powers granted the president of Liberia under Article 56A. So, in the instant case, the 2010 Act of the Legislature establishing the Liberia Maritime Authority and providing tenure for the commissioner and deputy commissioner does not violate Article 56 of the Constitution, which grants the power of the president of Liberia to appoint certain officials of government at his will and pleasure. So That was the Arthur Jackson case. And that Arthur Jackson case was restating the position in the Martin Colley case.
Okay.
So in law, we call this a long line of precedent.
Okay.
The Supreme Court has interpreted this case, saying that the legislature has the right to legislate position and take them out of the ambit of the will and pleasure of the president. Because, mind you, we run a Republican form of government. We don't run a monarchy. We don't have a king. So that the idea of a Republican form of government was to have three co-equal branches of government counter-checking each other, checkmating each other to make sure that no one branch is too powerful. So all this interpretation that Article 56A gave the president an all-check power is faulty. The Supreme Court has interpreted it in the Martin Colley case, and it has interpreted in the
Arthur
Jackson case. So they could go to court on a 1%, 5% chance of winning, but you can see that it's going to be a loss.
And Mr. Freeman, you, the lawyers, also remind us about due process. Is one of your arguments that these individuals, the manner in which they're being removed from these positions, due process not being accorded them? Is also one of your arguments is that, well, what is not done legally is not done at all. And the way the president is filling this position, the law must be undone before he can proceed, and so he's in error. Is that your position?
Yes, of course. There are several grounds. I just stated one grounds,
Okay.
and because of precedent. So the Supreme Court has established several precedents to say that they have the right to legislate as such. The other thing is they are being accused of violating the code of conduct.
Okay.
And so when you go to court, or let's not say you go to judge a matter, right? You have to have one, the correct parties, and two, the correct forum. If you miss any one of those two, the court will dismiss your case without looking into the case. If you got the wrong party, they could dismiss it without looking into the case. And if you go to the wrong forum, they will dismiss the case also. The reason I'm pointing this out is that when they accused the National Election Commission person of violating the code of conduct, they took the case to the circuit court. If you remember the case with the National Election Commission chairperson who was accused of corruption, they said she violated the code of conduct.
Right.
Good. And the court dismissed the case because the court said, well, good case, but wrong forum. And the forum that was supposed to do that is the Office of the Ombudsman, that is supposed to look into allegations of violations of the code of conduct.
Okay.
Now, you will be thinking that the president will focus on that to establish the office of the, not established because the law has been passed, just to nominate the official and give them logistics to work.
Yes.
He doesn't seem to be working on that, but he is using the same law to terminate people. I mean, it's illogical. And one thing you can't get away when you go to court is the issue of due process. Whether you're in the legislature, you're in the executive, if you are going to take away a right, a privilege, or anything you want to take away from an individual, you have to give them due process. You have to give them an opportunity to be heard and to present evidence in their favor. It doesn't have to be a court, but you must give them an opportunity to present their side of the story and present their evidence. So you have not yet established the Office of Ombudsman. You are alleging that people are violating the code of conduct. Where would they take their cases? So I don't know where the president is heading with this thing. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. The third thing is on public policy ground. The Supreme Court gets very furious when people try to undo their own actions. All these laws that we are talking about were passed by Joseph Boakai and Ellen together working as a team, and they passed all these laws, and they benefited from it. Now, over a few years, they found themselves in a tricky situation. They want to go back to the court and say, yes, even though the last time we passed this law and we said it was lawful and it was okay, but after a few years, it's no longer in our favor. We are telling you it's no longer lawful. Declare them unconstitutional. If you go to court with that argument, you're not going to get any success with it. The court get very furious with those kinds of arguments. So I just wonder what Boakai is thinking. Not even Boakai, but his people, his legal team, what are they really thinking? They should leave this tenure team because they're just not going to get a win from it.
Thank you. Thank you. The lawyer has spoken, has given us clarity and understanding on this issue. Mr. Namwek, with what being said by our legal mind here, is it fair to say or not that President Boakai is in constitutional error with the whole tenure thing? And you know, they according to the legal advisor to the president, they will compensate some people,
right?
Because he argued that with the tenure position, they have a contract.
Right.
Right. They're going to compensate some of these people. But then some people who violated the code of conduct,
right,
wearing party, T-shirts and all that, they will let them go without compensation. Are they in high water here?
So clearly, from the way it was interpreted by the counselor, you would definitely agree that they're treading on very, very, sandy ground. My friend Bushu Ben, the input that he made into this matter sounded to me like he's trying to reverse engineer, a solution here. What he stated is what they should have done in the first place, right? They began to fire the people before they offered them a chance to negotiate. I think that's what they should have done in the first place. And so I think they blew the water into their own faces. And even before the councilor made his input, a number of us have said so on this network that we think they are really on a slippery slope here. They could have really found the law offers them the opportunity to terminate the tenure for cause. One of the causes not being participating in political activity, but I believe one of the causes could be for non-performance. I think that's a legitimate cause, but then you would have also given them the due process and afforded them the opportunity of hearing why you're replacing them and stuff like that. But I really think this is a very, very, very simple case that has been unduly complicated by the way it is being handled. And I think they will lose this. They will lose. I really believe that this is going to make them look bad yet again.
Jimmy,
let me come in there.
Two person took similar matter to the Supreme Court, and those two persons got ruling in their favor. The counselor here mentioned the two cases, Martin Colley and also Axel Jackson.
No, just a clarification.
Please do.
The court clarified the issue of tenure.
Okay.
But it's not like they got ruling in their favor, because in the Axel Jackson case, he was denied. They told him that his position was not tenure, but tenure was legitimate and it was lawful and constitutional. Okay. In the Martin Colley case, he got a decision in his favor.
Okay.
So just that clarification.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Jimmy, you go.
Yeah, so our brother Freeman here is the legal luminary here, but it was argued a few years ago by Senator Vonnie Sherman, who was chairman of the Judiciary Committee of the Senate at the time, that the laws that created these tenure positions were unconstitutional. That's what he was arguing. So, we created these tenured positions for the benefit of the country, for whatever you did, to establish some independence, some autonomy from the government, so that they would conduct their duties without fear of political intimidation. That was the whole idea. So if we're coming back now and said, no, we're not going to subscribe to that anymore, well, then we scrap the whole tenure thing, because we created it for our own convenience. But we can't be party. Why UP government is being held to year is they were the ones who instituted these tenure positions. Now, a few years later, they're undermining it, the very thing they established. So, what do we have here? Once we begin to undermine our laws, we break down, or we won't begin to break down the law. We erode the individual rights. We erode political stability and the potential. We potentially create an avenue for authoritarianism. In other words, they will do whatever they feel. So it's important that we respect the laws that we created, we instituted. Now, if you want to go back and rescind those laws, there's a legislative process to do it. But as long as those laws are on the books, we're supposed to be adhering to them. I don't understand what's going on here. It's confusing. Take the laws off the book if you don't want it. You don't want to put it there.
Correct.
Go ahead and remove them.
Thank you, Jim.
Plain as can be.
Plain and simple, Jimmy. You spoke well on that. Mr. Gibson, what is really causing this administration to be acting in this way? Are they trying to find ways to compensate individuals who stood with them during the campaign? Is it that they feel that there are limited jobs out there to share with these people, and so they're going to find jobs just about everywhere, whether or not they are in error with the law? What is pushing them to do this? This is law they created, and they felt that it was a good thing, and I agree with them.
Yeah, when it comes to, you hit the nail right on the head. My whole thought process with this is we're running out of places to place people, right? Mm-hmm. So let's move all these other people in there who are put in this role, and let's just put our own people in there who supported us. We can't put it at this ministry because the ministry is full. So let's put them on all these boards and put them in place and take the others out. At the end of the day, it just seems like there's no thought behind, again, thinking about all of the possible things that could arise. Now people are thinking, oh, okay, this administration is looking as if they want to be authoritarian or a return to the imperial presidency, where my word is final. We'll get in contact with the Supreme Court and convince them to change X, Y, and Z because it's coming up from the president. That's not how things work. If you want true checks and balances to be put in place and you put these laws on the books, follow the laws. When President Weah tried it, it was a precedent that was set that said this is not something that you can do. Let the people finish out their tenure. Even if they wore regalia. In the code of conduct, I don't know if it's a clear-cut part in that says you can't campaign for a political party or institution or whatever it might be. But if it says that, then there needs to be a deeper conversation on how that affects people who sit on boards, right? But you can't go ahead and just take these people out, say we'll pay you, dish out whatever payment we need to for you to just go away. That's not how it works. The government is now asking for more money for the legislature to sign off on it, just to even go ahead and continue with their day-to-day work. So it's like, why are you trying to add more strain on the government's coffers when you don't have the funds? Keep the people in their roles instead of you having to now compensate people to tell them, unfortunately, we have to let you go and we have to pour out the people in. It doesn't make sense. It's like you want to please everybody. You can't please everybody. This is a president, when he won, he said there will be no blue Liberian or green Liberian. So this is a true testament to, are you really trying to prove that? Yes, these people supported President Weah, but at the end of the day, the 10 years have not ended. You can't go ahead and go against what is on the books and then also contradict what you stated about being an inclusive government. It doesn't work that way.
You know, if I may add here quickly, and Brother Shea, to Brother Gibson's point, this is what is really confusing a lot of us. The laziness. You understand me? That this government is coming into with the executive mansion. I think the same kind of listening that the press secretary today exhibited without doing a little bit of research to understand what the problem is. She came on the air and said what she said. This president told us the government's personnel list, I think, told us about 70,000 people. Those are the jobs they have to fill. I don't think he's even made quite 500 appointments yet. So I just don't feel like they're running out of places to send people. They're just not doing their due diligence. Nobody is. I don't think they're coordinating these things. You know, somebody needs to sit down with this, the committee and say, look, there are 5,000 or positions available here. Yes, I understand they may not be as lucrative. They may not. The compensation may not be necessarily equivalent. I get that, but they have places to accommodate people. I don't understand why they're doing what they're doing.
Let me make a point here.
Okay, go ahead.
I think the UP government and a large section of the Liberian people have a total misconception about the provision of jobs. And it is that provision of jobs that got them to be split into two camps. One group went to Weah and the other group went to Boakai, because yeah, they felt that if I go this way, I will get job. If I go this way, I will get job. So they split into two camps, But what we expect from Boakai is how he will create private sector jobs, how he's going to attract investment so that there can be job creation. You see, when you take one person from on a job, that's -1. You put one person on a job that +1. You have not added any new job.
Zero-sum game.
Yeah, that's what they are doing. So, but for the Liberian population to be mesmerized and captured by all this appointment thing, I am so shocked and disappointed, because it means like the whole country is not thinking.
Single fancy.
Right now, we need Boakai to tell us how he's going to create jobs. And by jobs, I'm not talking about government jobs, because if you're taking CDC pricing to bring in UP pricing, that +1, -1, you stay at 0. So they should now impress upon the president, what is your plan for job creation? Spell it out so that we know, so things can happen. But, but what happened, a lot of them will get disappointed because they knew that Boakai wasn't going to deliver good government, because when you vote for a president, you expect either good government or you expect good government jobs. So most of them know that there will be no good government. So they are fighting each other for the good government jobs. But the good government jobs are just limited. So, let's hear his plan for job creation. Let's see what he has. But not all this fight about government jobs, because there's just a limited number of government jobs that can go around.
Gentlemen, final segment, then we go to the phone line to talk to those who are following and want to participate. And the question that I have is, what are some meaningful rescue efforts the Boakai administration has done or instituted or started so far? Remember now, they were coming, they will be different, they will give us change. They have the experience, they have the competence. Liberia was in distress and they were coming to rescue us. And here we are, they are in charge. What have you seen so far in terms of rescue efforts? Very meaningful, that suggests that yes, they actually came prepared, to take care of all the problems that they told us they had the solutions to, they had the experience and the competence to resolve. Have you seen anything significant, meaningful on the part of the administration to salvage the situation and take us out of this, distress, and rescue the nation Liberia? Jimmy, you start. What have you seen? Just one thing that you think you can look at and say, yes, this one it shows that they are here to rescue us. Any meaningful policy, position, something.
Well, I think it's we still early. I haven't seen anything yet. Okay. But this is 1 month.
No, Jimmy, you can't be serious. You have not seen anything yet?
Look, let me tell you what will be a telltale sign to me. Your appointees.
Okay.
What I see today are merely appointments to appease those people who supported the campaign. I do not see strategic appointments that will effect a change in our economy, in the trajectory in which we are going now. Because to do that, you will have to put in a strategy and the type of personnel that will affect this change. I have not seen anything different than business as usual. I'm getting this job simply because I was a supporter, but I don't have necessarily the wherewithal to change anything. I think Boakai will have to be the leader, because if he leaves it up to the people who I see he appointing, we're not going to change anything. Now, if he gives them a specific assignment and the specific goals to achieve, and then they don't achieve those in a certain amount of time, then he will have the ability, the capability of removing them or changing them. But he has to make explicit what their goals should be, and they have to come up with the strategy and how will we get there. But up to this point, I haven't seen anybody who will change anything from what it was before.
Wow, Jimmy, we heard about this 100 days deliverable. I know it remains a draft a month later, and you think that is not something we've seen some appointments. We've seen Mike Jabatet of the world, and we've seen a lot of appointments. We see Sarah Besloyenti, we see Kofi, and you said nothing. And even the appointment does not suggest to you that they are really up to serious business here. Jimmy, you can't do this to the UK.
The 100 rule, the 100-day is just a plan. It's a plan.
Okay.
And with all plans, if any management student will know that execution is the problem in any plan. Execution. It is difficult to execute. That's where the rubber meets the road. So they can have a lavish plan. Oh, we're gonna no car stuck in the mud going forward. No child will be hungry. Okay, we'll create 10,000 jobs by next year at the same time. You can say anything.
This administration is in conversation with HPX. The administration mentioned that there is a possibility for $5 billion investment here, and you said nothing.
Well, let me see it first.
Okay.
Once we heard about some other deals of the previous administration that did not come to fruition. It's a great thing that APS will invest $1 billion in Liberia. I guess that's for building a railroad. An additional railroad in Liberia will be a benefit to Liberia. Let's admit it. But has that come through? Have we seen the documents, the signed documents? It's still, if anything, it's still in the oven. It hasn't come
Jimmy,
out.
before I get to your colleagues here, I said, have you seen any meaningful effort? I'm not talking about accomplishment at this time. The HPA negotiation, I think it's an effort. The 100-day deliverable plan, I think that's an effort. They have already committed some money, I think $1.9 million. All right, to the rescue. The 100-day deliverable plan. They're trying to get something. They're making some effort here, and the appointments too. So when you say there's nothing, Jimmy, I don't think you are fair to the Boakai administration here.
They are talking. For instance, when the Boakai came over here in the U.S., when he came with Amara, they took him to the council. He took him somewhere very important in the investment in Africa. And so they have talked to some people, but they're still making it. It has not come to fruition yet, but they're still talking.
Thank you. So, Jake Victor Number, do you agree this is all talk and that's not, and there's no any serious effort whatsoever for for this administration that created, I don't know, should I say the fear urgency of now? Are they far from that?
Usually Jimmy, I thought he is more of a middle of the road guy, but I really, I can't disagree with him. I mean, we can be very generous and mention the HPX deal, but the analysis done by Front Page Africa, if you go through what they're reporting, the mineral that this deal is supposed to be buying, the final price tag is way less than even $2 billion. So that leads you to question really, the authenticity of this whole negotiation, let alone the fact that they haven't really put out any readout on what it is exactly they're negotiating. We all know the multi-user rail that they are, the HPS people are bidding for. I think they're offering to build something new or something like that. But ArcelorMittal already has some claims to lay to that passageway, and so that would have been one of the major, achievements thus far. But even that is questionable. Yeah, the appointments and all that. Yeah, but even that, they're not getting it right. I mean, look at what we are talking about. They are in court already because they are putting people where they shouldn't be putting them. And then there is all the whole question of name being removed, all the drama associated with the appointments. So relative to what I thought this government would have done, I would say really I have seen nothing worthy of praising. I don't see anything compared to what I had anticipated. I'm hard pressed to give them at least a check. I can't find one. Absolutely none. Not the appointment, the so-called appointment, not the HPX deal, not the trip to Ghana, because I don't know what the trip was about. This president sat out the AU conference, don't know why. He sat out the ECOWAS conference, don't know why. And I honestly, I don't have anything to give.
What's about asset declaration? You think you can give it to the president? He commissioned
like I
some
said,
of his cabinet. Hold on, let me land my question. He commissioned some of his cabinet, some members of the cabinet, and he gave a mandate, declare your asset. I don't know whether he said they should make it public because he has not. But that's something, right?
Again, it would be generous. That is something, but he himself weakened the whole process. He declared his asset after the fact. He didn't go by what the law lays down, and that in itself, I think, sent a wrong message to the rest of his cabinet and staff. And so, look, how many people have declared since he did, if he even did, because we haven't really seen what he said, what is reported. So now, how many people have declared?
You're talking about how many people the vice president did declare. I don't know if he make it public though.
I don't know either. I don't know. But I'm trying as much to be as generous as possible. But I'll be honest with you, in real serious honesty, I don't see anything yet that I am.
So in other words, we are far from a rescue mission.
Absolutely. We're far from the rescue mission. Absolutely.
Mr. Number, you're not being fair to the Unity Party people. I think some of them will believe so. Let me see if the lawyer can be fair to them here. Mr. Freeman, we are talking about meaningful efforts on the part of the administration so far. Is there anything meaningful you've seen so far?
I have been looking for something of that nature too. And permit me to be a little biased towards the law.
Okay.
When you talk about changing society, it is law or it is institutions. So take the case of, let me backtrack a bit. We are discussing tenure here, but we are discussing it because Ellen did it by way of laws. And so she fundamentally changed the way the president exercises power. So when you want to change a society, it's either law or it's institution. And in most instances, it's the one and the same. So the measuring rod will be what new policy has Boakai instituted. And for comparison, let me give you an example. I read it from a political website that Joe Biden, in his first hours as president, signed, I think, what is it?
17 or 18.
17 executive order in the first hours. So those executive order are laws that demand that people act in a certain way different from the way they were acting. Okay, so Boakai hasn't passed any executive order, and he has not proposed any legislation that I know of to the legislature to say, let's change this thing and let's bring in this. And when it comes to accountability,
before you continue, to be fair to the president, in his State of the Nation's address, he articulated his legislative agenda. A lot of good things he said. He talked about the Local Government Act and so on and so forth. Go ahead.
Yeah, so by now we should be talking about that he sent this law or that law to the national legislature and call on them to pass it as quickly as possible so that he can continue his rescue mission. So when it comes to law, I don't know of any law that he has passed, whether executive order or statute or even regulation. I don't know of any. And I think that's the way you go about changing society. Also, too, on the issue of accountability, I think he's been terribly disappointing. And there are 3 areas that he's been disappointing. The inauguration flop. Even people who supported Boakai said it was a flop. There should have been an investigation. Maybe people should have been held administratively liable. Or if there were criminal laws violated, some people should have been penalized by way of prosecution. Boakai decided he would do nothing. The other thing is on the UP corruption. 365,000 distributed. Nobody know where it came from. It was distributed. It was misused. There were allegations and counter allegations. Today, Boakai has said nothing. Absolutely nothing. And then I mentioned some of the young people who sacrificed to vote for him. Election violence. Some people were killed. Some people were wounded. Today, Boakai has not even offered a word of solace, apology, or whatever to the family, much less to call for an investigation and for accountability. So, I mean, you tell me, where are we heading? Maybe for those who really have like hope in Boakai, fine. But I mean, you know, I can see that it's heading the way it's heading is going to be a flop.
And Mr. Freeman, before I go to Mr. Gibson here, the administration, even before the president was inaugurated, there was a serious effort from the president's side cleaning the city, right? I think that should we not commend them for that effort? Also, the president has instituted an audit of NSA and commission other audits at other agencies of government. So when you say there's no serious effort, I think others might think these are serious effort. Do you not agree?
First thing, if you call for audit, it should be a comprehensive audit. So to pre-select institution, I think it was wrong. Because, for example, the people the U.S. put sanction on for massive corruption, which institution were they from?
From the executive, I would think.
Some of them from the legislature. So he has not even targeted, even if you wanted to say, let me prioritize, then the office of the president, where Nathaniel McGill worked. Those are the places.
That's where we work.
Where Bill Toyer worked, the national legislature. Those are the places, assuming you wanted to pick and choose. But I feel he owed it to the public because the campaign on audit, there should be a comprehensive audit. I have always stated that the national legislature is producing millionaires. Why are they producing millionaires? Because they receive budget. There is no audit, and there has never been an audit in 12 to 18 years. So obviously they are producing millionaires. And that money that they are using in the way they are using, it's not their money. That money belongs to the Liberian people. Nobody should receive money from the public treasury without being subject to audit. We are talking about 650 million, I think, in 12 years. They have never been audited. We have not heard a word from Boakai. Maybe because he got Prince Johnson there and Jeremiah Kuhn, and they were all there and they contributed to his campaign, so he doesn't see it necessary. So when you want to go to NSA, EPS, but the place that even the US government said there is massive corruption, you are leaving that out, it's a disservice to Liberia. So we call on the
Would you
UP.
think that the office of the first lady too must be audited? She received budgetary allotment throughout the 6-year term of President Weah.
Yeah, that's why I say a comprehensive audit. I wouldn't mention a few institutions because I felt if Boakai wanted to pick and choose or to fast track some audit, then maybe the national legislature, the office of the president, the office of the where McGill was, wherever, and those kind of places, those were the places to start from. But I feel that there should be a comprehensive audit. And I keep saying, the longer you take to do an investigation, the more difficult, because obviously people getting rid of evidence, people doing things. So if you're going to do an investigation, you may as well start the investigation and go ahead and do it.
Thank you.
And it won't be long before they'll realize that they don't have a lot of money anyway. Then they will start to think that, okay, maybe if we do an investigation and some people are prosecuted and they have to restitute money, they will do that. But I see them sometimes they talk about restitution of assets without prosecution. There is no such thing as restitution without prosecution. You have to prosecute first, then there has to be a restitution order. And after the restitution order, before you do restitution. So you can, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. And I also know that President Boakai commissioned an audit of the Central Bank of Liberia. The folks from the Unity Party people would disagree with you and say, hey, this is serious effort on the part of the president. The Central Bank, this is commission audit that is in full swing right now as we speak. And some of them may say that. Mr. Gibson, you get the final word on this thing. We are talking about meaningful efforts on the part of this administration. Your colleagues are like saying, hey, we don't see anything meaningful here. Do you disagree with them? And I mentioned some of the things, some people might think are meaningful efforts. Where you stand?
So for me, I like to be objective when I make these analysis and my statements. But with the objectivity that I've seen, or that I've witnessed overall in my thinking, I would say the overall rescue train is losing a lot of steam, right? And by me saying that is simply stating that a lot of the things that they ran on, they're making just a lot of mistakes too early on. Just hiding information that should be shared with the public. That was something that was done in the past. You said you would do it differently. When it comes to putting the right people in place, you're going up among choosing your partisans to put them in a lot of these key positions. So there's no radical thinking in terms of putting new people in, fresh faces that have not been in government before, to really lead the charge of what your arrest agenda will consist of. The arrest agenda is what you should be focused on from the moment you got in. That list of your cabinet members should have been already decided. But the slow pace that he took to even make that decision, that he's still making decisions take place, is just a little alarming. Also, appointing family members or friends to government is alarming. All these things that of ills that you spoke against prior to, you're doing the same thing. So is it really not business as usual? So a lot of those things that he promised, it's like he's not living up to those promises that he made. Yes, he's talking about auditing and things like that, but at the end of the day, we want action, not just words. You're calling for audits of some of these areas, but what's the basis behind calling on some of those areas? Come out and state to the public why you chose those areas first to focus on. Like Mr. Freeman said, more time is passing. You already know that there have been people who have been sanctioned. Why have you not called upon the U.S. Embassy or whoever the parties that be to get some of those things rolling? You're focused on doing things differently. You're supposed to start thinking differently. if you've been in politics for 40 plus years, where is this new idea of or way of thinking that everybody talk about, right? When we talk about Liberia as a whole, I really believe the major problem in politics in Liberia is everybody is on the line of single fancy. When you speak against one thing of the past that was done by an opposition party to your own party, you would say, okay, it's wrong. But when your party is doing the same thing, you want to go ahead and stand on that mountaintop and scream at the top of your lungs that it's not wrong. My party is doing the right thing. But it was wrong, 6 years ago? So why is it right now? A lot of these things that were done in the past is still being done, and nobody is having the gall to stand up and say this is wrong. This is a party that ran on the rescue train or rescue mission. The train is losing the steam. The people that place on that train alone says that they've lost the steam already. You can't speak to what change they really want to bring to the country. Is the same 5 and 6 as people say in Liberia. You can't say that that Unity Party is bringing anything different to the table. They're not. It's just the truth. The same 6 and 7. It is the same thing over and over. We can't continue to have the same conversations when this is supposed to be an experienced statesman that's coming in to take the yield or the level of leadership and take us to the next level. When we talk about higher heights, people are saying he's supposed to be like President Tolbert. This is not President Tolbert. This is not. President Tolbert's nickname was Speedy. He knew about the fierce urgency of now. He was speeding and trying to figure out different things, pulling levers to see what worked, what didn't work. President Boakai is not doing that. So we can't talk about him, comparing him to President Tolbert when he's not moving like President Tolbert was moving. He's moving slow. He's moving very slow.
And Mr. Gibson, talking about whether or not the administration is making some meaningful efforts, the War Crime Code is another big one.
And they
Liberians have agreed in majority that we must come to a closure to the atrocities that took place in this country. This is no small violence. This is no small trouble that we caused ourselves in this country. And to allow these individuals to not be asked any question in the court of law, when other nations like Sierra Leone and Rwanda has some form of accountability to the greater level, and for us to allow these things to happen. And President Boakai is seizing the moment. The United Party folks are arguing here. Alan White, who was the chief prosecutor in Freetown, I understand he's in Monrovia. There's a video being released. He's having conversation with Boakai. Boakai is making full commitment that we will follow through on this. Is this not another meaningful effort on the part of the administration?
Absolutely not. From my understanding, when it comes to that video, they didn't even want it released to the public because this was something that was done after he had won the elections. That's when Alan White came in, if I'm not mistaken. So this is not a new video. It was never supposed to have even surfaced on the internet in the first place. He made a statement of wanting to do a war crimes court in his inaugural speech, but then the State of the Nation address, it wasn't anywhere to be found. So is he truly trying to focus on that, or is it because you have people who supported him during the elections that are firmly against wanting to do the war crimes court? That's why he's become quiet on it. If anybody were to ask the press secretary right now, she would not give you a fair answer as to him being.
Are you suggesting Mr. Boakai is playing politics with it, just as President Weah did and played politics with it? Ellen did the same thing and played politics with it.
Absolutely. In order to keep, quote unquote, the peace with Prince Johnson and the devil that he laid with, like he said, he's willing to dance with the devil to make something work. And when you have people on your side who are against, of course, a war crimes court, why would you go ahead and say it or support it? And they ended up wanting to appoint the what's the guy's name over at Ministry of Justice as the Justice Minister? Yes, him. Right now they move him to labor because why? The parties that be the people who are really doing the work behind the scenes, United States, wherever it might be, are saying you can't do that. You talked about wanting to do this war crimes code. Now you want to bring this man in who will firmly stand in the way of it. So there's a lot of things that are happening behind.
Yeah, but no, the Justice Minister got nothing to do with our war crimes code. No, that's not correct.
But I mean, so
we have to go to our policy.
Well, Anthony, let me make one point on our war crime code, right?
Okay, please go ahead, Mr. Freeman.
We will know Boakai is serious when Boakai submits an act to the national legislature.
Mhm.
Anything less than the submission of an act to the national legislature, what we call in Liberia lyrics, it's just lyrics.
Some people
Because
consider
when,
that fly.
yeah. So if Boakai is serious, right,
Mhm.
let him send an act to the national legislature so that the discussion can start. Because you cannot
Thank you.
like do a walk around code in the absence of approval from the national legislature.
Legislature. Exactly so.
All
You
right.
know?
That is fair enough. And Jimmy, go ahead. I'll give you 30
Yeah,
seconds.
I just want to, and I see a lot of comments here, and the people don't. If we've seen this before, if you don't see concrete action, then it means nothing. When we are trying to do away, let me dig it with these sanctioned positions, with these tenured positions. He submitted a bill, and the House approved. I think the Senate rejected it. He acted on it. If Boakai wants to do something, he has just what the counselor just said. He has to act on it. He has to submit a bill. Then we know he's serious. Anything short of that, and not serious. Even this audit you're talking about. We Ellis long time LSCC brought down people in the Weah administration. They caught people red-handed. They had the evidence. What happened? Zero.
All
So
right.
all this audit is all. Let's see what happens. Then you'll be convinced. Don't mind the show. See what happens in the end. That's when you know we're serious or we're not serious.
All right, gentlemen. I think we are having a good conversation here. I'm loving the conversation, and another effort on the part of the administration that I see, and we can all debate it whether it's a serious effort. That's another conversation, right? But at least the fight against drugs, right? The DEA is out. He's making arrests. He's confiscating drugs in the country. People are being ransacked, and I'm sure some of them are being, pulled behind bars or something. I don't know that, but at least he's making some. And the president, he took drug tests, and he's asking everybody to follow suit. It's a symbolism, maybe it's something, right? So I will leave it there. Let go to our callers here, but before we do, let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll go to our callers. So callers, get ready. We are coming to you right now.
Lord, you say our country, sweet Mandela, our country, that God gave us this country. Tell Labira, that God gave us this country. We are calling on everyone here to come and pray for this country, Labira, Labira, God gave us this country.
Indeed, fellow Liberians, God gave us this country. We have a responsibility to make it work. We have the rescue administration that is doing everything in its power to make it work. We go to our callers. I think I see one person who is ready to go. Flomo Livingstone, are you there? If you are live.
Yeah.
What have you to say?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. J. Great show. Well, I think most of the panelists, they are not even informed. They criticize them, but they're not even informed on what is trying to criticize. Look, I have a question to the lawyer, and the Freeman. You talk about the law. I would like to know how many cases have you won in Liberia? In the court of law, how many cases have you won? You're talking about President Boakai should take this guy there to court. Yes, I agree. But you need the Minister of Justice and you need the Solicitor General to be confirmed before you can start to prosecute this guy. These guys are not being confirmed. How will you expect the president to execute all that without this guy not being confirmed? You need that. As a lawyer, I believe you should know that. Again, we don't expect the president to nominate his perform his cabinet within a month time. I was just reading on the website, on the U.S. website. It took President Biden 61 days to form his cabinet. It Obama 97 days to form his cabinet. It took Donald Trump 98 days to form his cabinet. And we expect him, President Boakai to form his cabinet in 30 days. Come on, guys.
Maybe because President Boakai said he was yet to rescue. So when you are on a rescue operation, you should be ready on day one. Maybe.
Yeah, I agree with that, but the greatest country in the world that has a system in place. It didn't take the president 30 days to form his cabinet.
Okay.
So the President Boakai has done so many achievements. First is ordering the GAC to audit the EPS, the NSA, and the CBL from 2018 to 2023. He gave the GSA 3 months to complete that audit. In the history of Liberia, no president has done that. The HPS, people just think I have concession. It doesn't just work like that. You have to work. It takes some time. You're not just going to talk to HPS and the next day they start working. No, it will go through the House of Representatives for them to concur. So, my problem is the president is doing well. When it comes to the nomination, he's doing great. I'm not expecting everything to be perfect. We all will not agree as an state. Some people there some name we agree with, other people may not agree with that same name. So when I expect for him to be perfect, it's impossible. So the lawyer, I really want to know how many cases have been won in Liberia that he's talking about. So the turning position, I think it should be removed because it went against Article 56 of the Liberian Constitution. The president don't have that authority to nominate certain people. You get people who breaking the laws, we're not talking about it, the code of conduct, you're only focusing on the president, turning. You guys are criticizing those guys that campaign. Even if the code of conduct says you shouldn't campaign when you're in a position of like turning position, you shouldn't campaign for a specific political party. But I don't see the lawyer talking about that. He's not criticizing that. That's okay. We can't be selective when it comes to the law.
The lawyer said the president should appoint the ombudsman, the one who is charged with the responsibility to hold individuals accountable who violate the code of conduct. The lawyer is saying that's something President Boakai could have done maybe on day 3, 4, 5, just to appoint that person, and then that person now can hold these alleged violators of the code of conduct accountable. Don't you think he has appointed that?
Yeah, I agree with that. He has a point on that. I agree with that. The president should do that. Okay. But again, from my point is you shouldn't be selective. You have to criticize those guys that broke the code of conduct. You have to criticize them so they can know it's not the right thing to do.
Or he's not disagreeing that those people might have violated the code of conduct. It's clear you can't be campaigning when you are a government official. You can't use government vehicle to campaign. I don't think the lawyer disagrees with, but his argument is that you are the executive branch of government. You enforce the law. There's a person the law says who is charged with that responsibility to hold those individuals accountable. Why are you wasting time? That's the best way to hold these people accountable and not taking the matters into your own hands.
I agree, but the last is I want to let the lawyer know the president don't have the authority to audit the House of Representatives. He doesn't have the authority to do that. So those guys
under the Constitution of Liberia, which branch of government has the authority to audit? Is that the executive? The first branch of government authorizes the executive branch of government that carries on audit. The General Auditing Commission, the IAA, all right, the Internal Auditing Agency, all these branches are under the executive branch of government, which presupposes that it is the executive branch of government that should carry on audit, irrespective of whatever agency or branch of government. Do you agree on that?
So, but my point is the GSC, the legislature would agree. The legislature have the power to remove the GSC, they can remove the guys that they have the authority. So
all right.
That's a side fact. So for me, look, for that thing we need a referendum for that constitution to be changed.
I couldn't agree more on the referendum. That is one of the things now the president that you support It should be on the decks of the speaker as we speak, but that is not there yet. A great contribution from our living school. Always, we appreciate your contribution here, and thank you for always sharing our show. Make people to follow us on Focus on Liberia, and we will appreciate that greatly. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Right, Mr. Freeman, I will allow you to come in. I give you a minute to respond to the brother.
Oh, that guy who's speaking is not familiar with the GAC law. The GAC law authorizes the GAC to audit everybody working in the government. The other thing I want to say, Liberian people should understand that nobody has the right to receive government money and not face an audit. So the idea that $650 million can be spent without an audit is very bad. And so Boakai doesn't need to waste any more time. The only reason why I see he's not doing it is because he got Kun, he got Pre-YJ, and most likely these are people who are already carrying on corruption at the legislature. So they are trying their best to stop the audit. But the legislature needs to be audited, the judiciary, and the executive. Okay? There is reason to believe that there was corruption at NPA, at Ministry of State, and that was the reason why the US government put sanctions on these people. So those places need to be audited, so that if maybe because the reason we want to audit, maybe there were other people who committed crimes who we can grab, okay, but the longer you delay, those people could get away.
Yeah.
So there is no need for Boakai to waste time on the audit. He needs to commission a comprehensive audit of the government, starting with the office of the president, with the Ministry of State, and all these agencies and stuff like that. They need to do it so that if there are people who breach the trust, maybe they can be held administratively liable. And if there are some people who went the extra mile, they can be held criminally liable. So nobody should receive government money and not face an audit.
And I'm sitting here before I go back to my callers who are patiently waiting. Where is John Molo? He became the Unity Party's budget hawk during the campaign. Mr. Nambo, you are the political guy here. Where's your friend Molo?
You know, I was wondering that just this morning. I don't know where John Molo is, but like my brother here is saying, you know, those are the kind of things that would telegraph to us what the government is about, right? They're talking about audio. You have John Molo. Why is he not a part of the team right now? I don't know. There are questions about BJ Samuka. Why is he not in the government yet? As a professional security man, look at what happened here on Armed Forces Day. Or is it because he was in the former president's church on the eve of the elections? Nobody knows. But yeah, that's a good question, Mr. C. I don't know where Mr. Molo is. And a lot of people are already asking, why is he not a part of this team as of yet?
Thank you. Let me go back to Elvis Morris. Mr. Morris, you are live and clear. You are loud and clear, I should say correctly. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. CA.
Mm-hmm.
Hello to the panelists.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you're hearing me good.
Yeah, you are clear. Go ahead.
All right, good. The first thing I want to address is this whole...
Give you a little volume, Mr. Morris. Give you a little volume. Go ahead.
Yeah. I said the first thing I want to address is the mobile model issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think we're giving him too much credence. I think as Mr. Nangwesel on the show, look, this guy does not have a repository of political support. So he is irrelevant. And just to correct Mr. Eastman, there was Nathaniel McGill who headed the CDC as chairman during the 2017 election that brought President Weah into office. He was the one who was instrumental in formulating the coalition, especially bringing in the NPP, which was instrumental in President Weah, winning the election in 2017. After that, what do we see? We saw the disarray, the dissolution of the CDC in terms of being mighty, as they used to call them. They started losing elections left and right. I can guarantee you, if McGill had been the chairman of the party, CDC would have won a lot of those elections. So this guy was ineffective as a CDC chairperson. And people who have the propensity to gossip and to talk loosely, that's the kind of people who invite people to record them. I can assure you that it wasn't the first time this guy was talking reckless about the president. for somebody to take. If I go visit Mr. Eastman, I'm not going to take recorder to go record him. But if you have the propensity to be saying all kinds of crazy things, somebody may be inclined to do that because they feel like the first time they mention it, the second time they mention it, the third time they will not miss it. So he got himself because he got himself in that position because he had a big mouth. And maybe he's an alcoholic. Also, maybe he can drink too much. And when he drinks, he doesn't know how to control himself. So maybe that way he look up. But he was right to resign, and we'll, as people who support the CDC, we would gladly accept his resignation and look for a more qualified chairperson. This whole issue with Boakai, look, our president, me prior, somebody asked why he didn't go to the AU or African Union, so why he didn't go to the other thing. The simple question is he's not well. We'll make it nice, we'll make it nice, He's not well. The owner is not well. So you don't really want to travel outside of the country, So that's the reason why he's not going over there. Well, I like the lawyer. Mr. Lawyer, I like the way you deliberate. I agree with most of your points. The only thing I would beg you, take it easy on the great man walking. He's a great man walking. He's in the country. Take it easy on him. But overall, I enjoy the show. I think you guys are making a lot of sound points. But I think President Boakai is who we thought he is, and he's showing us, who he is actually. And you guys are seeing it. So those who are gullible and naive to believe what other people are saying, I beg you, he's not going to do any of those things. I only happened when I heard about the welcome code thing because I thought if he does it, for me, I would put myself on the record right now. If Boakai established welcome code, I would say the presidency was a success. No matter what else he does. If he establishes it, I would give him a 90 passing mark. I would give it to him. But that's what it is. I think he's taking my call. Leave it right there.
Maris, before you go, are you there?
Oh, he's gone.
I was going to ask him,
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask him if we are to conclude that the president is not well, does that mean he couldn't have sent representation to go to the AU summit or even the ECOWAS summit? I wouldn't want to categorize that as just not being well. I think this is a dereliction of duty, in my opinion. I mean, these are important organizations. There are a lot of chatter that goes on the sidelines of these organizations. A lot of deals have been struck on the sidelines of these negotiations. Even while these meetings were going on, there was a security meeting that was happening in Munich, in Germany. We didn't go. So I think it's more than...
Are we in debt? Are we not in debt to some of those things? Maybe that's the reason.
You forgot about that? Okay.
All right. Gentlemen, let's do this tiny fast spend. We're going 2 hours, 90 minutes now. That is way past our usual 2 hours. So I think you all have helped us here by making sense of the questions that Focus on Liberia had for you. So let's bring it to a close now. We will take a minute of closing from each of you. Let's start with Jimin. Jimin, close us.
Yeah. Okay. So it's early in the game, and I don't really see any concrete telltale signs of a change. There's got to be much more movement. There's got to be some not only pronouncements but action that follow pronouncement, decrees, and just like was pointed out by the Councillor Freeman. By now we should have gotten some executive orders to make changes, but we want to believe that is in the making, and we hope that in the coming days, especially before the 90 days, we'll see a lot more action, less talk and more action. That's what we're looking forward to see.
Thank you. Mr. Namwe?
Yeah, thank you very much, Lucia. Thank you, guys. Like I always say, it's great to be in your company, and thank you also to the audience as well. One, I think it is not late with the VIP lounge. I think this government can reach out and correct this, but there is a lot of chatter, and there is a lot of chatter going on. I heard one of the current senators threatening to go to court or something like that. But the point is, I honestly believe it was an honest mistake, and I think a simple apology will put that to rest. I don't think we should allow it to grow any more legs than it already has. On the John Molo situation, Chairman Molo, I think as a politician, you should be measured, and you should be able to gauge your worth. I think he oversold himself and may still be overselling himself with palling around with Prophet Key and all of that. I can understand it must be, in so much angst trying to show the CDC for how I guess he was frustrated, but eventually I think he will be on the losing end of things. He needs to quickly gather himself and decide on what he wants to do. As to the current government, over almost 45 days going in now, out of 100 days, and we here we are. We're hard pressed to actually categorize any real potential positive thing coming out of the executive mansion, and that really worries me because I expect this government to do a lot, and I just don't understand what is happening. I'm still hoping that it's not too late to turn things around. Thank you very much for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Namwe. Mr. Gibson?
Yes, thank you once again for the platform to share my perspectives. I want to end by saying time waits for no man. At the end of the day, Liberians voted for Joseph Boakai and Jeremiah Kuhn for the rescue to begin of Liberia, to save it from falling into this deep abyss. And at this time, I'm not seeing a lot of changes, a lot of things that are supposed to be done differently. I think it's high time that they start to kick this into high gear. They put the train back on the tracks, and the steam needs to start coming up a bit more quicker. Overall, if we're talking about rescuing Liberia and what that looks like, at the end of the day, it's supposed to be about deeds and not words. So we need to focus on more deeds and not just words or flowery speeches that will lead to nothing at the end of the day. Thank you once more for this opportunity.
We appreciate you for always honoring our invitation. Mr. Freeman, you get the last word and you closing out finally tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been an exciting time. I never get tired of talking about these issues. So let me just go quick. On the issue of tenure, the president will do well to leave it alone because the Supreme Court has already done 2 cases, and they have made it very clear that all those laws that created tenure are constitutional and legal. There is no point in going to court on something that has already been declared legal by the Supreme Court. He needs to set up the office of ombudsman, because when you allege that people violate the code of conduct, there has to be a forum for them to establish whether they were wrong or not wrong. I also think on the issue of accountability, it was very wrong, for him to not take issue with all, some of the accountability issues that are in the government. But one thing I want to mention, and with respect to that, the jobs that matter will be private sector jobs. So all this fight over jobs in the government will not help. What will really help Liberia is private sector jobs. So on a whole note, Boakai has not really shown leadership. But it's not late because it's still early. He can recover, but he has to recover fast. So let me leave on this note, and then I guess we will be talking in time to come on similar issues.
Gentlemen, I can't thank you enough. I think you helped us tonight. With that, this is how we will come to the end of yet another edition of our programs here at Focus on Liberia, where we are only about educating, elevating, and promoting all things Liberia. We believe we are the best in the business of helping our people make sense of the happenings in our dear country, Liberia. We are not always right, but we will always do it better. We are about quality and nothing else but the truth, and the truth. And that is why God continues to help us, even though we don't have the big bucks. Folks, we can't thank you enough. To those in cyberspace and those who continue to follow us, we want you to always share our shows. We want you to always click on any of our videos. Look further down, you will see the word photo in the last field. Click on it, and when you click on it, you will see where it will say, the first option will say all notification, so that when we go live, you can get notification. Facebook had a restriction on us, and it deactivated all of the notification that our followers have been getting, and so that has been impacting our Facebook in a very significant way. So the solution is all of our 86,000 subscribers must elect to get notification from us. To do so, click on any of our videos. You will see the word follow in the last field. Click on it and select the first option that says all notification. When you do that, you will continue to get notification from us whenever we are live here at Facebook. We want you to pass the word on, because we must educate ourselves as citizens of Liberia, be informed, hold our leaders accountable, and then they will do better. They will never, ever, ever, ever hold themselves accountable. We put them there. We have a responsibility to, and that is why we are urging you to do, so that Liberia can become that glorious land of liberty. With that said, the song says, we are all Liberians, and that song closes the broadcast right now. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye to everybody.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.